Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to look at a previous paper and we're going to focus on the chapter of number patterns. Without any waste of time, let's start with the questions. So the first question says, consider the finite linear pattern 2017-14 and the last term is -103. So on the statement, they're telling us this is a linear pattern, and automatically we know if we have a linear pattern, we must have a constant difference. So we can also confirm to check that if this pattern is really a linear pattern. So how do we do that? We always say what? The term in front minus the term at the back. So 17 minus 20 is giving us -3. So our difference is -3. And then 14 minus 17, it is also -3. So therefore, this is what? This is a linear pattern like they said. So now we can start to answer our questions. The first question says, write down the fourth term of the pattern. So we have term 1 here, term 2, term 3, and we're looking for term 4. So we can see that we are minusing 3 from term 1 to get to term 2, and then we are minusing 3 like that to get to the next term. So therefore, the term number 4 is going to be what? It's going to be 14 minus 3, which you can just write term 4 is what? 14 minus 3, which will give us 11. So the value of term number 4 is just 11. When you answer this question, you don't have to show this. You can just say term 4 is equal 11. So on the next question, they say that determine the expression of the nth term. So when they talk about the nth term, they want the general term of the problem. So remember, this pattern that we have is a linear pattern. So to determine the general term, we're going to use what? Our arithmetic general term equation, which is Tn is equal A plus n minus 1 multiplied by D. Remember, you will still be correct if you use your old equation to say Tn is equals to Dn plus C. But this equation was when you are doing grade 9. So now this equation that we are using here of arithmetic is much easier because we just have to substitute the value of A and the value of D to get the answer. So you're going to say Tn is equals to the value of A always represent the first term. So the first term is 20. Therefore, you have n minus 1. And our difference is -3. So you're going to put -3. And therefore, we're going to simplify this expression so that we can get what? The general term of our pattern. So this will be Tn is equal 20. This -3 will multiply with n, and it will also multiply with -1. So -3 by n is going to be -3n. -3 by -1 is going to be +3. So therefore, our nth term is going to be -3n, and then we have 20 plus 3, that will give us 23. So that will be the answer for 3.2, the nth term of the problem. So the next question says what? Calculate the number of terms in the sequence. So they already gave us the last term has a value of -103. So if we can get the position of the last term, therefore we have all the numbers in the pattern. So for 3.2, 3.3, we will say that we already have the general term of the problem, which is -3n plus 23. So to get the position of the last term, we're going to substitute the value of the last term here on Tn. So the value is -103, and therefore we have -3n plus 23. we are going to solve for the value of n to determine the last term, the position of the last term, which will give us the number of the terms we have. So now the 23 will come to the other side, therefore it's going to be 103 minus 23, which is equivalent to negative 3n. And therefore negative 103 minus 23 gives us negative 126, and then we have equal 3, negative 3n, of which you're going to divide both sides by negative 3, and therefore the value of n is going to be how much? 42. So therefore, if the value of the last term is position number 42, therefore the number of our terms is going to be what? It's going to be 42 terms. So you can just say, therefore, we have 42 terms. So the next question, which is 3.4, they say, which term is the first to have a negative value? So we're going to say, okay, 3.4. They want the first term that is going to be negative. So remember now, if you have this pattern here, you can always minus 3 like that to determine which term will start to be negative. But now, because you have the general solution, the value that will start to be negative is going to be what? It's going to be the value that is less than 0. So now, less than 0 means what? Means negative. So all the values that are less than 0, we are going to get them using this inequality here. So we already know what? The general term, which is this term here. So we're going to substitute this general term there, and then we're going to determine the position of which you're going to start to have a negative value. So our Tn is the same thing as negative 3n plus 23. So we are going to substitute it here. We're going to say negative 3n plus 23 is less than 0. So now we're going to solve this value of n, and therefore all the values of n, depending on what the inequality is, may be greater than or less than. That means all that values will be negative moving on like that, depending on what is the value of n. So now let's solve for the value of n here. So we're going to have negative 3n here. So when we move the 23 to the other side, this will be what? This will be negative 23. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. But now, every time when you divide an inequality side by negative 3, the sign is going to change. If it was looking this way, it is going to look that way. So now we're going to have what? 23 divided by 3, of which is the same thing as what? As 7.67. So now, all the patterns that have the value of n, the position that is greater than 7.67, they're going to have what? They're going to have negative values, because we say now we are looking for the values that have the value that is less than 0. And the value that is less than 0 is a negative value. So now, the first value that will start to be negative here, it is going to be what? The value of 8, because now that will be the first position to be negative. If we have 7.67, after that we're going to have 8. So the position of 8 will be the first to have a negative value. That is how you answer 3.4. So for 3.5, 3.5 says that what is the value of the 19th term, even valued term in the sequence? They want the value of the 19th term. So I don't understand this even valued. Okay, they are saying maybe that value must be even. I'm not sure if the 19th term will be even, but now the question was the value of the 19th term. So they gave us the value of n. We need to determine what? The value of Tn or T19. So remember, we're going to say the general solution is what? Is negative 3n plus 23, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So now the problem we have the position of term number 19. So we want to determine the value of term number 19. So we're going to say now, we are looking for the term that is in position number 19. So what will be that value of that term? So we're going to substitute where we see n, we substitute 19. And therefore, we solve for the value of term 19. So hopefully this value will be an even number, because I don't understand what does the statement say there when it says even value term. Okay. So, okay, the value that we get is negative 34. Okay, so that concludes what the statement was trying to say. So we find that negative value there. So that is how we'll answer 3.5. So now when we move on to the next question, we have question number 4. They say that Samantha is investigating a pattern of dots represented in the diagram below. So we have now number of patterns. We have pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3. So that means it's term 1, term 2, term 3. So now on term 1 here, we have the value S1, and then on term 2, we have the value S4, and then on term 3, we have the value S9. And then they also show us now how to get these values that we get on the terms. For example, for term number 1, we just square term number 1. That is going to be 1 squared is 1. For term number 2, we square term number 2. Therefore, we get 4. For term number 3, we square that. Then we get that. So if we want to find the value of term number 4, we're going to say what? 4 squared. And then we get the value of that. So that is how the pattern goes. So now the next problem says what? Write down the number of dots that we have in the fourth term. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, in the fourth term, we're going to have 4 squared. And therefore, the number of terms in the fourth term is going to be how much? 4 squared is going to give us what? It's going to give us 16. So we have 16 dots. Okay, that is how we can answer 4.1.1. So 4.1.2, they say the number of dots in the 13th term. So we're going to do what? We're going to do the same thing. We say, okay, 13th, we're going to say 13 squared. And therefore, the number of dots in term number 13 is going to be 13 squared, which is 169 dots. That is how we answer 4.1.2. And then 4.1.3, they say now the formula of the number of dots in nth term pattern. So now the formula, what is happening here? Our Tn is just what? It's just the position squared. So it's just going to be n squared. So if we want to find any value of any term, we just put the term and then we square it. So therefore, this will be our general pattern.